Hey, welcome back to This Schlub Does. Today we're going to be doing something different. Instead of working on cars, we're going to be working on food. We're going to be making chicken fried rice, crab rangoons, and egg rolls. Now, if you've come here expecting to see wonderful knife skills, you've come to the wrong place. So we're going to start with dicing up our chicken. The easiest way to do it is to slice it down the middle. Then we'll slice it into strips and then dice it from there. And as you can see, my knife's not terribly sharp. If you do a lot of cooking, you're going to want a sharp knife. But I'm too cheap to go out and buy a really good one, so the one I have I make do with. And anytime I'm dealing with meat, I like to wear gloves. It's honestly not so much for sanitation, but especially when I'm working with chicken, chicken's kind of slimy. So I just don't like to get it on my hands. And no, I didn't throw that piece of chicken on the floor. I have a 120-pound mastiff behind me who likes to eat up all the fat that I can give him. Maybe I'll give you a picture at the end, show you my garbage disposal. And I will say this, it's really nice, just a nice feeling cutting up meat and chopping veggies on a cutting board that you personally made, that's sitting on top of a countertop that you personally made. It's just an added layer of satisfaction to a task that I already enjoy, which is cooking. Now, once the chicken's done, we're moving on to the vegetables. This is called mise en place, by the way. Crazy French word for get your shit ready. And basically, it just means, chop your veggies, get all your stuff set out and ready to go, so that when it's time to cook, you're just worrying about cooking. You're not worrying about any of the actual prep work. And this is, kind of the way you want to dice onions. Again, not the greatest knife skills, but it doesn't matter if the onions are super uniform or finely diced. In fact, I kind of like bigger pieces anyway. But you will notice that when I get towards the end of the onion, I don't stop. I turn it back on its side, and then I keep cutting, because I like to use as much of the onion as possible. I don't like big old chunks of waste. And even those little pieces, if you save them, you can use them in a stock. Like if you're going to make chicken and dumplings or a soup or something, you can use those in the stock and then strain them out later. Now with the green onions, you see how I'm doing there? All you got to do is rock the knife. You don't really need to actually lift it off the board. Just kind of rock it and slide it, and then just keep your fingers curled back, and you won't hit your fingers. Now you see on this particular green onion, I left that bottom band on The longer the stalks that you're working with, you want to keep the bands on towards the back just to kind of help hold them together so they don't spread. And save those, and those will go into a stock as well. Now that's everything for the fried rice. For the egg roll, it's just kind of a cheap mix. It's 1 pound of regular sausage and then a bag of coleslaw cabbage mix. Basically, that's all an egg roll is pork and cabbage deep fried inside of a wrap. So if you use sausage, you're already getting pre-seasoned pork. And this little tool, oh, I love this thing. This is I don't even know what it's called. It's just something to help you brown the meat. But it just cuts through the meat, spreads it out, increases the surface area, makes the browning of the meat so much faster. Now here, I'm not actually cooking this cabbage. I'm adding it to the heat so that I can wilt it. That way it'll soften up and mix in with the sausage. So that when you wrap it up, if you don't do that, the cabbage is really hard and it will actually poke through the egg roll casing. So you just want to wilt it down and just get it soft. Mix it in a little bit at a time. And I should have probably used my bigger pan for this, but you know, this Schlub's not exactly the smartest guy on the planet. And once it's in the bowl, you know, just mix it thoroughly. You don't want big clumps of sausage or big clumps of cabbage, and then, you know, in your egg roll, you just have one or the other. So you want to mix it pretty good. Now for the crab rangoons and the egg rolls, we want to use an egg white wash. So we want to separate the egg whites and the egg yolks. But don't throw away your egg yolks, because there's a really tasty, really simple dessert you can make out of the egg yolks, and I'll show you that towards the end. And you'll see on the baking shows, the bakers, they'll separate that with their hand. They'll crack the egg in the palm of their hand, let the white slip through their fingers and hold on to the yolk. I don't like doing that. It's slimy, it's nasty. This maybe takes just a little bit longer, but it separates them just as well. So we're just going to use 4 egg whites for our egg wash. Now for the egg rolls, it's really simple. You lay out your casing and fill it, and you're going to kind of roll it like a burrito. You're going to fold the ends in, then you're going to fold over that flap, and then take it like 2/3 of the way up, and then tuck it back and tighten up the roll. Then you put your egg wash on the inside, roll it up, turn it over, and then use more egg wash on the outside to seal it all the way up. And make sure you get plenty of filling in there. You don't want a weak egg roll. So same thing, fold the ends in, fold it 2/3 of the way up, tuck and tighten, roll almost all the way, put the egg wash on the inside, roll it, egg wash on the outside to seal it. And as you can see in the background there, I've got a pan with some paper towel in it, and that's what we're going to use when we pull it out of the oil to soak up the excess oil. And then I don't have a deep fryer, I've just got a pot on the stove there. I've got it set on medium heat and let it heat up for about 10 or 15 minutes to make sure the oil is good and hot without having it, you know, be too hot. You never want to put these in oil that's not hot enough. It's almost better to have them cook too quickly than cook too slow, because if you wait till if you put it in too early, you get soggy egg rolls. They don't firm up, or crisp up, I should say. And then I like to do 3 at a time. And while they're in the fryer, you know, just kind of keep going. Not sure why I'm doing this, honestly. I decided I wanted to taste what the wrap tasted like by itself, and just let me assure you, it's disgusting. And when they start floating and the bubbles start slowing down, that's when you know that it's done. Doesn't have any more moisture in it, because that's what those bubbles are. That's the moisture vaporizing and exploding and the air coming out. So once you've gotten all the moisture out of the wraps, they stop bubbling like that. And just put them on your paper towel. Now for the crab rangoon, it's 8 ounces of cream cheese, and you want to soften the cream cheese, but you probably want to wait till after it's out of the wrapper. I softened it beforehand, and getting it out of the wrapper turned out to be messy. And you want 2 cans of shredded crab meat. You want the 6-ounce cans with the 4-ounce dry weight. Put in your green onion. About 3/4 of a teaspoon, 3/4 of a teaspoon of garlic powder. And as you can see, I'm using the cheap version of all of these things. You don't need the expensive stuff. And 1 teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. Correction, apparently it's 2 teaspoons of Worcestershire sauce. And then just mix it all up really good. And even more than the egg rolls, it's really important that you get this mixed thoroughly. And now you just kind of pop open your wraps. Now these, I think they say on the package that they're wonton wraps. I've never actually found like a crab rangoon wrap. I've always just used the wonton wraps. And they're vegan friendly, but don't let that scare you away from them. I haven't found any of them that aren't vegan friendly, so for us meat eaters, it's okay to still use them. And with this one, you're going to do it similar to a ravioli, only you're going to do it into a triangle shape. You're just going to load up the middle. You're going to wash 2 edges. And then you're going to fold over at an angle, press out the air, and then seal the edges. And with these, the more filling you can get in there, the better. You don't want just, you know, a tiny bit of filling and then, you know, nothing but the wrap, because as previously stated, the wrap by themselves are pretty disgusting. And the same thing as with the egg rolls, just throw them in the fryer, wait till they stop bubbling. Now here I have the heat just a little bit too high, so I had to turn it down on the subsequent ones because they cooked a little too fast. But everything is pre-cooked, the crab meat and everything. So if the wrap cooks a little too fast, it's fine. It just means your insides aren't going to be heated all the way through, which isn't horrid. And now moving on to the fried rice, you want to get your wok hot, put in a little bit of olive oil, toss in your chicken, some onion, and then after the onion you're going to put in some broccoli. I just use the frozen broccoli, let it sit out 10 or 15 minutes to thaw. And you just want to keep this moving. You don't want to keep it sitting in the bottom of the pan and keep it still for too long. You want to try to avoid cooking the fond down into the bottom of the pan, because when you put the rice in, the rice is invariably going to stick. So you want the bottom of the pan to retain some of that oil. Now just sprinkle in a little bit of garlic powder and then a few turns of black pepper. This just happens to be a peppercorn blend that I really like. You don't add any salt because the soy sauce is going to add plenty of salt. And again, just keep it moving. Now once you have the chicken cooked thoroughly, a little bit brown, we're going to add the rice. I use a rice cooker. For whatever reason, I can't cook rice. If it doesn't go in a rice cooker, it comes out too wet, too dry, too crunchy, too mushy. So I just use a rice cooker. And I add anywhere between a cup to a cup and a half of rice per serving. Now once the rice is in there, it's incredibly important to keep it moving because the rice will cook to the bottom of the pan. Even in non-sticks, I've never had the rice not just stick to the bottom of the pan. In this stage, if you wanted to add butter, you can. I don't usually, but butter will help the sticking, and it will give it a kind of a sweeter flavor. And you just add the soy sauce, keep it moving, mix it around, give the rice a chance to cook and really absorb and kind of cook in that soy sauce flavor. If you're using a light soy sauce, you want to be careful because fried rice, should be a pretty good brownish color. But if you use a light soy sauce, it's not going to come out that color. And if you try to make it that color by adding more, you're going to wind up with a really, really salty, almost inedible fried rice. So again, just keep it moving, keep everything mixed up. And then here I'm adding a little bit more soy sauce because the color didn't look quite right. But I am using the Walmart brand light soy sauce. So it's just, kind of have to experiment with that. And then the fun part, you get to pour it out, plate it. And you can see in the bottom of the pan, the whole bottom of the pan's not covered, but a lot of that rice stuck to the bottom of the pan. And we add our egg rolls and our crab rangoons, and we have a relatively inexpensive, very filling meal. Now, for the dessert, for what we're going to do with those egg yolks is we're going to make a vanilla custard. And do not do what I just did there. Usually when I make this custard, it's in a huge batch and I just pour a bunch of vanilla extract in there. In this case, I poured the same amount I would for like triple this. So you want to use about 2 tablespoons of vanilla extract for that. Then you just put in a half a cup of sugar and you just mix it thoroughly. And the half a cup of sugar to 4 egg yolks is actually a good ratio. And this actually came out tasting really good. It was just really strong vanilla. So if you put too much vanilla in it, it doesn't really affect the custard other than just making it really strong. And we're going to use a can of evaporated milk and 1 cup of 2% milk. Normally when you make a custard, you use heavy whipping cream. But heavy whipping cream is actually kind of expensive. So if you use evaporated milk and 2% milk, you will get, it won't be as silky smooth, but you will get a smooth custard. You just have to boil it a little longer, and you have to keep it in the oven a little longer, which we'll get to here in just a minute. So there's our 1 can of evaporated milk. And then our 1 cup, these are half cup measuring cups, then 1 cup of 2% milk. It would be better, by the way, if you used whole milk, but apparently whole milk is illegal in my household. And you're going to stir it on medium heat, and you cannot walk away from this. You have to keep stirring this. And you stir it until it starts frothing up. And in my saucepan, it's about 1/3 full. You wait till it froths up till it's about 2/3 full, like what you can see right there. Once you've got it frothing to about 2/3 full, then you turn off the heat, you stir it for a little bit, and then you do what's called tempering the eggs. And this process sucks. It's slow, but if you don't do it this way, you're going to scramble your eggs, and it's going to taste like vanilla scrambled eggs. So you start stirring the egg and sugar mixture, and then very slowly you dribble in your boiling milk. And I gotta tell you, that pan's not exactly light, and this really sucks on your wrist. You'll see towards the end I actually start speeding up because my wrist is starting to hurt.
Bring the funk back.
But again, if you don't do it this way, you will scramble those egg yolks, and you will come out with vanilla scrambled eggs. And it doesn't taste as good as it sounds, and it sounds pretty horrible to start with. And mainly I'm showing you this because this is basically the start of a creme anglaise or a creme brulee. Creme anglaise is basically, if we were to leave this sit and cool, that's a creme anglaise. That's a custard that hasn't quite set. Then you've got the creme brulee, which is a set vanilla custard that you put sugar on top of. You brulee, which means to burn, to torch the sugar, and then you have a creme brulee. So if you leave it like this, you have a really nice sauce, which is called the creme anglaise. Now you get your ramekins, and you want to put them in a baking dish because we're going to put a hot water bath in it. And then you just fill them up. The ramekins will have a lip on them. You want to fill it up to the lip. You don't want to fill it all the way to the top. And it turned out I didn't make enough for 6 ramekins, so I had to pull one back. And then when you put your hot water bath in, you need that water to be hot. It doesn't need to be boiling or anything, just hot from the tap is fine. But if you put cold water in there, you're not going to get these things to set up. Then very gently, you want to put it in the oven. You don't want any water splashing into your ramekins. That will make them not set up as well. And that's it. And then at the end, we will show you what those look like when they come out of the oven.